Welcome back to X-Ray in the Morning. By the way, I'm Kira Lindenberg. We're supposed to introduce ourselves more, so I'm making us do it.
I'm DJ Gray City.
Man.
Hannah Rose now.
Is that really, did you just make that up right now, or is that like your longtime DJ name?
It's my longtime DJ name.
Gray City?
Yeah, but I mean, you can't, I don't do any DJing under that name.
Well, you are right now. Would you like me to call you DJ Gray City for the rest of the morning?
I mean, you don't have to.
DJ Gray City, how do you feel about the political story we just read?
Okay, I should. Okay.
In case you missed it, we've got a story about Trump sending 3,500 more troops to the border of Mexico. But we have talked about it, and there are actually way more pressing things happening today. So let's move on to the story of the U.S. exiting the nuclear treaty with Russia. The U.S. has announced that it will be withdrawing from the Cold War-era Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty with Russia that banned some nuclear and conventional ground-launched ballistic and cruise missiles. President Trump's national security advisor, John Bolton, has long been warning a withdrawal was coming. The U.S. says Russia has been deploying missiles that violate the deal for years. The U.S. will withdraw in 6 months unless Russia destroys, quote, all of its violating missiles, launchers, and associated equipment, Trump has said on Friday. So that's fun.
I love playing with nuclear deals with Russia and North Korea.
Yeah.
Makes me feel very comfortable.
Does it?
No.
Oh, okay. Whew.
No, it doesn't.
Just really waiting for the shoe drop there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading up a little bit about this hello, let me try that sentence again. I was reading up a little bit about this morning, and it's interesting. So there are like these, I think when we think of nuclear missiles, or at least when I do, because I don't know, war games is just like not the thing that I sit down and read about a lot. We think of these giant bombs that can destroy an entire city in one go. And I think when most people talk about nuclear missiles, that's what they mean. But apparently, when nuclear missiles or weapons were first being developed, there was also this thought of like these really, it was like something that you would also use like on the front line. So you have your guns and you have your grenades, and then you also have these like small nuclear missiles that can just sort of like wipe out the front line. It's just sort of fascinating from like a tactical standpoint. It's horrible.
Right.
But anyway, so I think that is what's actually being talked about in this treaty. That doesn't make it any better, but it is just a good distinction to know.
Well, in other international news, Canada confirms its 14th case of a diplomat falling ill in Cuba. There has been a 14th case of a Canadian diplomat displaying unusual health symptoms in Havana, Cuba. In response, the Canadian government vowed to halve the number of staff stationed in Cuba from 16 down to 8, while reassuring that the health and safety of diplomats, let's just say that, their safety remains a priority. An anonymous Canadian government official also stated that, quote, to date, no cause has been identified. The Cuban ambassador to Canada, Josefina Vidal, dubbed the move to cut staff as being, quote, incomprehensible. Quote, this behavior favors those who, in the United States, use this issue to attack and denigrate Cuba. During the last breakout of strange symptoms in November of 2018, Canadian diplomats in Cuba underwent testing. The test confirmed that the most recently affected are showing symptoms consistent with the symptoms of the last outbreak. The Canadian government further elaborated that there was no evidence to suggest that Canadian travelers in Cuba were at risk.
What?
They're getting sick.
So they're getting sick, but not from something that any Canadian travelers could get.
But similar to same symptoms as folks from last year. It's like, are they just check the mold in the building?
Right? This is extremely strange. I mean, either this is like you guys didn't think through the fact that when you go to another country, you need to drink bottled water, or they're implying that something like quite sinister is happening here, which either way is a fascinating story, but like, whoa.
Yeah. We need to learn more.
We'll keep our magnifying glasses out.
Yeah.
We should start wearing super sleuth hats when we do this.
I'm down.
Okay, cool. Are you down, DJ Gray City?
Yep, DJ.
When I was in junior high school, I started calling myself DJ Sunshine. I think that was like the era where everybody had a DJ name.
Yeah. Hey, look, we match.
Oh my gosh.
Gray City and
Oh,
Sunshine.
this. We were fated. We were fated to do this.
Cool.
We just high five for those of you who are just listening on the radio and not watching on YouTube. In other international news, protesters march against Maduro with U.S. support. On Wednesday, protests broke out in Venezuela in support of Juan Guaido, who has declared himself interim president and called for Nicolas Maduro to step down. The protests come just a week since his taking oath in Caracas, elected as president of the country's National Assembly. Guaido claims that, quote, Venezuelan constitution grants him authority to lead because Maduro was reelected through fraud. Trump on Wednesday acknowledged Guaido as Venezuela's official interim leader and has since imposed sanctions to attack Maduro. Sarah Sanders stated on Wednesday that Trump congratulated Guaido for his, quote, historic assumption of the presidency and stressed, quote, the importance of large protests against former dictator Maduro. Trump supports large protests, huh?
I know. But he also
Interesting news. Anything else to say about this?
It's just a pretty big deal, and again, the U.S. we're supporting. Why are we supporting this? It's all about who's controlling that oil money.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, really, what is our interest? It's a huge human rights story, and it's a huge.
Right.
I mean, millions of people are in the streets over this.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be interesting to see why and who the U.S. continues to support.
I think it'll be the same as the U.S. has always, or at least in the last 5 decades, have
Follow
supported.
the oil.
Absolutely. Follow the oil, follow the money.
Yeah.
We need a longer show to really talk about that.
Yeah. We want to get to this local stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Here we go.
The World Health Organization reports dire conditions at the Syrian refugee camp. According to a report from WHO published on Thursday, at least 29 children and newborns have died over the past 2 months in or on their way to a refugee camp in northeastern Syria called Al-Hol. Hypothermia is the main cause of death. The camp is located near the Iraq-Syria border and was once mostly made up of Iraqi refugees. In the past 2 months, the camp has tripled in size. Most of the new residents are women and children fleeing conflict between ISIS and U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic Forces. The camp now shelters about 33,000 people.
Wow.
The WHO reports that many new residents spend days in unheated reception and screening areas after traveling on foot or in open-air trucks with little more than the clothes on their backs. Elizabeth Hoff, who's representative in Syria, says aid teams are struggling to deal with the critical situation. Humanitarian access to the camp has been impeded by bureaucratic and security concerns.
Oof.
I mean, this is just another piece to consider when we say the U.S. is going to withdraw like that.
Right.
There's 33,000 women and children who are in a camp.
Right. Right, in dire conditions.
In dire conditions.
And we're like, but you know what we need is a wall between the U.S. and Mexico, so let's bring all of our troops home. Just saying, I would do it a little differently.
I would do it a little differently also.
Should we keep talking about international news? Maybe we should move on to...
Let's go to Cascadia.
Let's talk about Cascadia news.
Yeah.
Scroll. Just kidding. All these stories are off the top of our heads. We're not reading off a script.
Yeah.
In top Cascadia news, not that this is much of a surprise to any of us, Oregon is producing twice as much cannabis as is being used. According to a new study from the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, farmers in the state have been overproducing marijuana and now have a more than 6-year supply. Oregon Secretary of State's office just released an audit saying Oregon's system for regulating marijuana needs to be strengthened. The oversupply of cannabis has driven down prices since recreational cannabis was legalized 3 years ago. Although this may be good for consumers, the problem is that weak regulations could fuel the black market as farmers look to sell their oversupply in other states. Quote, preventing diversion is imperative to ensure federal authorities maintain confidence in Oregon's ability to adequately regulate the use and sale of marijuana, said Secretary of State Dennis Richardson. The Trump administration has already rescinded guidance that directed prosecutors not to prioritize federal enforcement over marijuana laws in legalized states.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big story here because
Yes.
it's like, what do you do to regulate this market? There's like options of one, do nothing, because usually in 4 years, a new market will shake out. So
What do you mean a new market?
The new market of legalized weed. It'll have been 4 years. It's been 3 years.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought, okay, yes, I'm on the page.
And so you do nothing, and then this will sort of self out.
Sure,
I guess that's
like any new market.
Any new market. Or they're saying we can stop new farmers from growing, or like limit the amount that people can grow.
Sure.
And those also get into some like equity issues where
Absolutely.
Only these people can do this,
right,
and no one else new can get in on this.
Right.
Comes a little tricky. So it'll be interesting. I think the Oregon legislature is going to take this on.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to. I think
this
is a huge issue.
Even if it's a decision to not act at this point, to like let it see what happens first.
Right. It has to be addressed. I heard a really interesting statistic the other day that there are, I'm going to probably get this wrong, but there are more people in Oregon that work in the cannabis industry than at McDonald's and something else combined. I don't know. There's a huge amount of people that work in the cannabis industry. Like, this is a giant deal for our state.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that there are more that's what it is. There's more dispensaries than McDonald's and Starbucks combined, I want to say.
That makes sense. I mean, just driving around.
It's kind of insane if you think about it. But it lends to the idea that, like, yeah, there's a lot of people in the cannabis business right now, and that's not very sustainable. And we could suggest going back in time and, implementing the whole system differently, but that's not going to happen. So, right, what do we do now with this 6-year surplus of weed, which is just, I can't even say it out loud without laughing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Meanwhile, I still still all my friends on the East Coast are like, we can't believe you have legalized weed.
You can buy a $6 joint.
Yeah, we're
Not
like,
a big deal.
we have 6 years worth of legalized weed. Thank you very much. Should we move on?
Let's actually take a quick break.
Oh, I like that idea.
Music for your ears. You're listening to X-Ray in the AM.
Hi, Hannah.
Good morning.
DJ Gray City.
Good morning, DJ Sunshine.
Thank you.
Folks, we're reading news with friends. DJ friends.
I'm a DJ. She's a DJ. We're DJ friends.
Let's talk about this Oregon regulation of plastic straws.
Yeah, let's. I have some thoughts. Go ahead.
Sure. So to give us some context, a bill currently before the Senate Environmental and Natural Resources Committee would make it illegal for any restaurant across Oregon to give customers a plastic straw without being asked. The request-only policy forces consumers to think about their use of disposable straws, but it doesn't pose an inconvenience for people who are differently abled. That was a controversy in terms of folks who need straws should be able to get straws.
Yeah.
Breaking the law would be punishable by $25 fine with a $300 annual limit.
I just did a really great mental image of somebody in like a leather jacket and sunglasses, like drinking a soda out of a straw and just like waving $25 in the air, like, can't stop me, coppers.
I know. I was just like thinking there's probably like to do a $25 fine on these things. It's probably more of an admin, like they're going to lose money trying to enforce that.
You're probably right.
This policy is similar to a wider ranging ordinance passed by Portland City Council in December of 2018, in keeping with California's law, but reducing the coverage of Portland's existing ordinance. An amendment to the bill introduced by State Senator Arnie Roblin applies to only full-service restaurants, not fast food. The amendment would further preempt any city in the state from enacting its own rules for drinking straws, sharply decreasing the number of restaurants regulated in the city of Portland. The straw debate. Straw.
This just in, the big straw debate.
Yeah. So what do you think?
Okay, with the caveat of this is my own opinion and does not represent the opinion of XRAY or anybody involved. It costs money and time and manpower to pass a law, right? And we're like in an environmental crisis, not just like today, but I mean, that's to the point that like talking about colonizing other planets or the moon is not that far. It's not like, oh, they're like, oh yeah, well, maybe we should figure out how to do that because we're in an environmental crisis and the polar ice caps are melting and everyone's choking and like, this is a real serious issue.
Right.
I understand the argument that I think the people that started the like movement to ban straws, it was supposed to be seen as, well, you know, first it's straws and then it's cups and then it's packaging and then it's whatever. And it's supposed to like spur this big movement.
Right.
But, you know, in the 80s, we got rid of aerosol hairspray and aerosol sprayers. There have been other movements like this, although I can't think of them at the moment. And you know what? They haven't. They have not spurred our huge environmental movement. Yeah. You know, when was the last time that you went out for a drink and you didn't get a straw and you were like, oh, you know, that just inspired me to go like call my senator and ask them to start investing in renewable energy. Like, I understand the point of it, but we are putting like valuable manpower and money into passing a law that we can't use straws. And straws, in case you're wondering, make up let me see if I can get this correctly, 1/50th of 1% of the plastic waste in the world.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's like...
Is it grasping at straws?
Oh, girl, give this girl a prize.
I'm awake now, people.
Her coffee just kicked in. Yeah, it's a bit like spending all your energy trying to bail out the Titanic with a thimble.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was a great, like, it's nice to see a subject that a lot of people can get around, and it starts conversations about too much plastic. And I have heard some people that are like, okay, this does make me consider my own personal plastic use.
Yeah, totally.
You know, but I agree. Okay, straws. Let's move past straws at this point. Yeah. We understand that straws are. That moment happened. It's time to keep the momentum going and creating a statewide bill that is just banning straws for just restaurants. Like they carve out for fast food industry. So
which
there
is
we go. Well, but
right. I mean
that's good. I would also agree that if this bill is going to move forward, it's like, let's put a little bit more into it. I mean, banning of plastic bags was pretty big.
Sure.
Let's talk about styrofoam. Let's move this to the next level.
Right.
If we're gonna actually have a law about it.
If you're gonna bother to pass this law, can it also have a rider that's like, and also no styrofoam cups, and also you can't have any plastic packaging, and also, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not. I'm not anti-straw movement. I'm just saying like it's way too little too late, and it's not going to spur the movement that we think it is.
Yeah, I mean, and then I've always thought with the straw thing, I was like, okay, every time there's a gap in a commodity that people want to use, there's a whole big thing of paper straws it's like, let's not replace plastic straws with the whole creation of paper straws.
Right. And also, have you ever used a paper straw? I'm sorry.
Disintegrates in my mouth. Disintegrates.
Guys, just either use a metal straw or learn to drink without straws, because paper straws they're like using a hologram straw.
Yeah.
Like 1 minute it was a straw and then it was nothing.
It's like, I like Twizzler straws.
Oh, Twizzler straws. Oh, you just solved our environmental crisis.
I'm pretty sure that's just more plastic, though.
Oh, I see your point. That's a good joke.
Yes.
Okay, in other Cascadia news, Portland leaders to vote on joint terrorism task force in February. On February 13th, the Portland City Council will vote on a resolution to withdraw from the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty vowed to put the issue to vote during her 2018 campaign. While Hardesty did meet with the FBI to get more information regarding the task force, she was never swayed to change her position on pulling Portland police out. Portland's vote will follow San Francisco's vote, planned back in 2017. Portland previously withdrew their officers from the JTTF under Mayor Tom Potter, but rejoined in 2015. Hardesty stated that, quote, "I am now leaning towards a very clean ordinance that just says we're pulling out. We will come back with directives for how we will continue to work with the FBI as needed." The decision may be close. County Commissioner Amanda Fritz backs Hardesty's decision to leave, but Ted Wheeler wants to stay involved with the task force. Do you have thoughts and feelings about this, Hannah? No.
Nope.
She just gave me big eyes. Big eyes. No, don't ask me questions.
I mean, it's cool to see that Joanne Hardesty is just coming right in to get things done.
Absolutely.
It's like it was great to see her get elected because she had ideas and she had, she was going to be the voice that was driving a lot of things that were getting stalled on the city council. So I just think it's cool that she's continuing to move these issues to the forefront and is not letting indecision by other people.
Absolutely. Well said.
Okay.
So
Oregon ranchers who inspired the wildlife refuge standoff are given public grazing land.
And scene.
Yeah. So the Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke, in one of his last moves in office, returned grazing rights to the Eastern Oregon ranchers responsible for the 2016 standoff at Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. Dwight and Stephen Hammond, both convicted arsonists. They lost their grazing permits after being sentenced on federal charges for starting fires on public land. Trump pardoned both of them last year. Zinke's order will grant the Hammonds the return of 26,000 acres of federal land for grazing cattle. During the Hammonds' trial in 2012, it was revealed that Stephen Hammond would hand out matches to his hunting party and encourage them to drop lit matches on the ground. He wanted to, quote, "light up the whole country on fire," according to a 2015 press release from the DOJ. They went on to serve 18 months in jail, but the case was later appealed. In 2016, Eamon Bundy and other anti-government disruptors hijacked the wildlife refuge in what would be a 41-day standoff to protest the Hammonds' prison sentence, which they received for legitimately starting fires on federal lands.
Yeah, this is something that we'll definitely have to pay attention to, as I feel like we've not heard the last of this story.
I mean, it's not going to end. They just gave them back access to the land that they like to use for their political issues. And so, okay, let's continue to keep these guys in the news. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's such an interesting nod to a certain group of voters, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, using your pardon on cases that are done. I mean, they served 18 months. They have this. It's like complete. And they're like, oh, we'll pardon you.
Yeah. I feel like quite a lot of people who were in jail that maybe deserved pardons a little bit more. But I'm not president, so, I don't have to make those decisions. God forbid. In-state news, Governor Kate Brown announces new counsel to access Oregon wildfire response. Yesterday, Governor Kate Brown signed an executive order creating a council to investigate the efficacy of Oregon's response to wildfire. Brown argued for its necessity, saying, quote, "We need to make sure we're doing everything we can, that we are employing the best practices in the entire country, and that we are building support among all Oregonians for the sustainable funding needed to change this pattern." The council's primary area of focus will be, quote, "wildfire education, prevention, suppression, attack, and community recovery." Did you just turn that into a rap? Is that what was happening
exactly.
over there?
Wildlife, education, prevention, suppression, attack.
You're like your own like after school special.
That's when I was reading it. I was like, okay. It's also like
It's
six
like-
areas of primary focus.
It's like being sung to grade school kids, and then there's like a guy that's in like a fire outfit, or like a he looks like a big, like he is a fire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
he's like, "Hey kids, we're gonna learn about education, prevention, sorry, that's not
Suppression,
this.
attack, and community recovery." The kids are like, pink, pink, just like all of our listeners. Sorry.
How do we even come back from that? Nothing else we say will be as important as that one moment. The council, the council will be headed. Oh man, delirious o'clock. The council will be headed by Matt Donegan, who has worked in forestry and timber investment management, and was formerly the president of the Oregon Board of Higher Education. This is actually rather important. So sorry we made fun of it, but this is actually a really important movement. So thank you to Kate Brown. By the way, since it is delirious o'clock, and by that I mean 8 a.m., you're listening to X-Ray FM at KXRY Portland and KQAC HD3 Portland at 107.1 and 91.1 FM, streaming online everywhere at xray.fm. What else should we talk about, Hannah? We've got probably 5 more minutes.
Probably the measles outbreak.
There's a measles outbreak?
It's a crisis.
It's a crisis.
A public health crisis.
It kind of is a crisis.
It is. So Washington outbreak patient travels to Hawaii. Okay. There are 40 confirmed cases in the Northwest, the majority clustered in Southwest Washington, and 13 more suspected cases have been reported. 2 children exposed to the virus traveled to Hawaii from the Northwest and were quarantined once arrived. They are now home. Washington Governor Jay Inslee last week declared a state of emergency due to the outbreak. The Federal Center for Disease Control and Prevention have been consulting with local and state officials. Immunization offers a 97% lifetime immunity rate. The area where the outbreak started has a much lower than required vaccination rate for community immunity. Early symptoms include fever and runny nose, followed by a red rash that starts around the head and moves down the body. People are contagious for 4 days, both before and after the rash appears. People who think they may have measles should call their healthcare provider before going to the facility to allow them to take steps to limit other people's exposure.
Or go to Hawaii. Call your doctor before you go to Hawaii.
Kids going to Hawaii.
I know. That's so, yeah, that's such a crazy thing. Like, I had a friend who moved to Hawaii, and I think her dogs had to be quarantined for like 6 months or something. So I don't know. That's actually probably pretty smart. Like they're pretty good about, we live on a tiny island in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
We need to be extremely careful about what diseases and viruses we let onto our island. But this is a big deal. I mean, that means, this is how epidemics start, right?
Exactly. The air travel, the folks who don't know they've been exposed going to large crowded areas like a Trailblazers game.
Right, exactly.
Then the spread happens. So I do think it's a good reminder of why vaccinations were developed. As humans live close together and travel. Right.
Yeah. I have so much to say about it, but we'll just have to save it for another science-y time. In other local news, Portland may see snow early next week.
Woohoo.
The National Weather Service says that Portland may see snow on Sunday, February 3rd. There's a potential. And meteorologists with the Portland's National Weather Service have said that a cold air mass is coming into the area, that polar vortex that we were talking about earlier that has escaped from the Arctic. But it's too early to definitively say whether the flurries will stick to to the ground. This is always the problem with Portland snow. We're going to get snow, but will it stick? Will there be enough for you to make a snowman without just like holding your hands out like a cup?
Yeah. I'm into snow when we get it a few days.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I like it. So I'm like, come on, give us a little.
I know.
So was it last year? It was the latest that we had ever seen snow, though. So I think it was like February 15th, and we got snow, and it was like the latest in the year that Oregon had ever gotten snow.
No, I didn't know that. Little Valentine's Day gift to us.
I know. Because I remember being like, oh, it's February. We've already passed all of our time for those snow days, and then it happened. I was like, wow.
Then it happened. Then the miracle happened.
Yep.
I love snow days in Portland because, I mean, partially because I don't have to go to work because we have no snow plows, but also because I used to live by Irvington Park, and it was my favorite thing to watch.
Yeah.
Like, just the entire neighborhood shows up, and there's like all these dogs sliding around in the snow, which was really, that was like the thing for me. I just went to the park to watch the dogs, but everyone's sliding down the tiny hills.
Oh, but I also love when the city just shuts down. I know it's inconvenient for a lot of people, but I just love it. It's lean
magical.
Into it. It's funny.
It's like our own little special Christmas.
Exactly. I was like, when do we get snow days from school? It's like that feeling.
Right.
One of the things, speaking of dogs and the cold, and during the polar vortex, I was like, oh, dogs and like cats can't go outside. What about all the animals?
Oh, that's a really good point. What is going to happen to all the animals?
What about the animals? They're so cold.
If you live in the Midwest, you're going to have to like open your doors and like invite all the deer and squirrels in.
You have to. I mean, I know it's passing, but if you see an animal, give it shelter.
Yeah.
And then what? People's house dogs just don't go outside. They have a designated corner now.
They better not. Oh, well, I mean, you can go outside for, I think, up to 5 minutes without getting frostbite. But yeah,
Dogs?
Also, don't make your dog go outside.
Oh.
Put little shoes on it. Put his shoes and a jacket and a snowsuit and a hat, and then maybe you can go outside for like 1 minute.
Yeah, and then post those pictures to the internet,
and
please.
send us those photos. Oh,
our producer. This just in.
This just in. Breaking news. She says her friend who lives in Minneapolis says her dog can't poop in the cold. Like physically, or like he just won't. My dog won't go outside in the rain. She's like, I'll just hold it forever.
Yeah. It's like, really? Out here? Are you kidding me?
It's like, you get to use the bathroom inside. Oh, this got blue. Anyway, that was News with Friends, brought to you by Morel Inc. Find out more at morellinc.biz. X-Ray in the Morning is also supported by our presenting sponsor, Tom Dwyer Automotive. Find out more at tomdwyer.com. DJ Gray City, thank you so much for being here with me to do News with Friends.
Oh, yeah. Love it. Thanks for having me. Thanks for listening, folks.
You have to say my name.
Oh, thank you, DJ Sunshine.
You're welcome.
For bringing it into our lives.
A new episode of
Community.
That's going to be our new theme song for X-Ray in the Morning.
Suppression. Attack.
A new episode of X-Ray in the Morning's personal finance show, Oh My Dollar, with host Lillian Carabake and producer Romy, is up next. After that, it's Dylan Reif and Lauren Skinner of Kickstand Comedy joining us in the studio with their special guest of the week, played by Beau Brassow. Finally, we'll end with a new episode of Minority Retort with host Jason Lamb and his guest author Marlon James, in which they discuss his new book, Black Leopard, Red Wolf. Until then, this is X-Ray. Radio is yours.